All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. As always, host Brand, joined by my co-host Nick. No Dan, because it is an early morning emergency pod. I don't think Dan even knows, Nick, that Chelsea have officially sacked Thomas Tuchel and are on the hunt for a new manager. Boy, is he in for a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty wild. We were sat at these microphones, like 12 hours ago? Yeah. And just talking about how terrible the loss was last night and all the stuff that needs to change. And yeah, I mean, we woke up to the news this morning. We always are about, 3 or 4 hours behind our friends in the UK. And so, with that benefit of the extra 4 hours, we decided to bring on a special guest, didn't we, Brandon? An old friend, an old chap.
Speaking of friends from the UK, Yannick, what's up, man?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on this peculiar day. Yeah, I'm all right, man. Absolutely same as you guys, mind blown as more and more news breaks out of what's been happening behind the scenes. But naturally, like many Chelsea fans, just bummed out, man, because I'm seeing all the video clips of Tuchel on social media when he was like defending the club and sanctions and winning the Champions League and all the great stuff he's done and pulling out the old heartstrings. So apart from that, I'm pretty good, mate. How you doing?
Very, very understandable. I mean, there's a lot of emotions, a lot of things going through. So look, Chelsea fans, we just want to get a reaction out there right now. It seems like a lot of things are moving fast. You're probably going to get updates from us throughout the day and things go. But I just want to kick it off with the statement from the club. The headline says Chelsea Football Club has today parted company with head coach Thomas Tuchel. It says, on behalf of everyone at Chelsea FC and the club, would like to place on record its gratitude to Thomas and his staff for all their efforts during the time with the club. Thomas will rightly have a place in Chelsea's history after winning the Champions League, the Super Cup, and the Club World Cup in his time here. As the new ownership group reaches 100 days since taking over the club, and as it continues its hard work to take the club forward, the new owners believe it is the right time to make this transition. Chelsea's coaching staff will take charge of the team for training and the preparation of our upcoming matches as the club moves swiftly to appoint a new head coach. There will be no further comment, yada, yada. That is the official line. Nick, sentiment, maybe a little bit more warm and fuzzy than what we've seen in the past. Dan will be upset there's no corner flag image.
Yeah, cornerflag.jpg was not used. I find that to be interesting. We have truly moved into a new era when you think about it. Yeah, man, I don't know. I find the timing incredibly peculiar. I think, obviously it's not been a fun start to the season. No one can contest that. It seemed like a lot of players during the Champions League game last night had phoned it in, for lack of a better term. And it's, there's clearly, there was something not right atmospherically, even. Like, it just seems like there was something off. But I mean, if you would have bet me $100 that by mid-September, Thomas Tuchel would have been gone in July when we saw him in the States, I would have taken that bet all day. It's this net, like, not say this never happens, but it's so shocking to me that he went before Brendan Rodgers did.
That puts it in perspective, man. That is wild, bro.
I don't know. This is clearly one of the best tactical managers in Chelsea's history, if not the best. Maybe up there with Mourinho one, in the way that he has completely changed this team and the way they move and operate. He's clearly a cup master. I mean, reached 4 finals in his time. It's just, I don't know. It's a lot of news that I've only had like 45 minutes to take in. So I'm just giving you something a little more raw there, but I certainly thought that he would have been given more time, even if I said last night that I don't enjoy watching this team.
I think I would say you should try taking that news in while drinking pre-workout. That'll really get your shit going in the morning. I was on my way to the gym and I did the front-facing video from the car, as I was sipping on pre-workout, getting all tingly.
Beta adrenaline going up your skull. Been there, man. Can I just put some extra context while we sort of start this conversation? So just for how wild this is, obviously there's an emotive reaction from Nick there, but right. So Tuchel, of course, the win rate's pretty good. Respected tactical tactical master, like Nick said, top 5 coaches in the world, won the European Cup, other trophies, and reached all these finals. But more than that, the new ownership came in with, Todd, Boehly, Clearlake, and they sort of asserted the idea of a dynasty, of building long term, of changing the ethos of Chelsea. And up until literally a few hours ago, or however long it was, it looked like they were buying into that, from a 250 to 70 million pounds summer transfer spend that was, the majority of it was guided by Thomas Tuchel. Not only did, they reference, right, what players do you want? We're going to spend hundreds of millions of pounds of the players you want. Well, oh, you're Aubameyang, a 33-year-old striker, because you've worked with him before. You want him, right? We'll bring him because you want him. Romelu Lukaku, our record signing, 100 million pounds, profound spend on the return of the prodigal son and all that crap we remember. What, you want us to take a profound financial loss in a decision that would have never have gone with the previous regime and send them on loan at a massive financial loss? Yeah, we'll do it, Tuchel, for you. Because you know what, man? We have bought in on you. We've seen how you guided Chelsea Football Club over this turbulent period with the change of ownership and the sanctions. The comments about, as long as there's, fuel in the bus, I'll drive it. As long as we've got shirts, and when he's had that emotional outburst about, I'm not a politician, I'm so privileged in time of peace, I feel bad, I don't know how to take these human moments. And everyone came away from that time of Thomas Tuchel. He's a leader, he's a compassionate man, he's not just a tactical master, he's represented the club, and they're all in. And the huge banner at Stamford Bridge, and all of this was leading up to that. But by all accounts, as the news breaks, as the stories developed, the cutthroat nature of this new model, it wasn't just Petr Cech, Granit Xhaka, Bruce Buck, Scott McLaughlin, the Lolishon, etc. There does sound like they had, perhaps for a little while, I don't know how long, an idea to change, to make to complete the turnaround. But absolutely shocked, man, because of the aforementioned reasons there.
It seems like whether Tuchel said he didn't want the added responsibility of transfers, he just wants to manage. The other stories, Nick, is that, Tuchel felt like when they're having discussions, when Todd said they were having discussions with Tuchel, he was very quick to change his mind or pass, and they just didn't feel like the consistency was there. And essentially every transfer ran through him. I do have some empathy, though, with Tuchel. If he didn't sign up to be a director of football, that isn't his strength, yet he was placed in a position to do that, and it didn't go well. And maybe he just got caught up in the crossfire of a transition, and it just happened to be wrong person, wrong time. Whereas if there wasn't a takeover and a huge transition where they needed to lean on someone for the football expertise, in a parallel universe, he's still manager.
Yeah, there's lots of impact there. There are a couple of things that are kind of competing for my thought. I think the first is, we've heard from a bunch of people that, if Roman were still here at the end of last year, Thomas Tuchel would have been in hot water, if not, potentially sacked, right? Last year was so turbulent, outside of the Roman stuff, obviously the Lukaku stuff, the way the team performed in finals, etc. Right? Like, it was more than we ever thought we were, more than we had ever bargained for as supporters, for sure. I mean, last year was nuts. There's a school of thought that, last year wasn't a rousing success by any means, either on the field. Now, comfortably finished third. The team makes a lot of finals. You could argue that during a turbulent time, this is the guy. Yannick did a great job of pulling out some of the human moments where you're like, holy shit, this dude says he's not a politician, he's a pretty damn good one. And then we saw him this summer up close and personal, a bunch on the tour. He was not having fun. He did not look like a guy who was pleased about where either his team was, where he was in the hierarchy, how the work was going, etc. And it was a pretty negative vibe. I mean, from that point until yesterday. I mean, I don't know, the atmosphere. I said that earlier. The atmosphere around the bridge was just very tense. It wasn't fun. It wasn't, the start of a new season should be fun. It should be the most optimistic you are all year, right? It's the time where anything's possible. And it didn't really even feel that way to me. So something changed for me, Yan, over the summer, because the guy who left last season after doing all that great work, who stood up and spoke for the club when other people in power who shall not be named didn't do a fucking thing.
Yep.
Came into summer and didn't necessarily have the same juice. And I don't know why.
Yeah. One thing I do find interesting that it could be quite telling, he's remarked on it unprovoked a few times, Tuchel, is he keeps bringing up Petr Cech. And he talks about how important, well, he spoke about Marina and Petr, but Petr a lot. And again, actually quite recently, he kept bringing up how he's so important to his working relationship. And he's disappointed, he's gone. Petr is, he's a victim of the new regime, despite what you hit, they'll tell you or whatever. And I don't think Tuchel was very happy with that. And it kind of makes me feel like, shades of when Emanalo or Steve Holland left, these figures that were helping a functionality in the club between managers, and then in their absence, bad things happen. You remember Conte before and after Steve Holland left, we won the league. He turned against the club and lost all relationship with like Marina. Now he wasn't necessarily doing like, the Emanalo role, but I feel like there is something to that as well. Tuchel loved Petr Cech, and I feel like he struggled to accept when he left. Now I'm not saying this is the reason why there was fallout, and by all accounts, like the wide reporting is that that he was super shocked, and understandably so. I don't think even if there was perhaps questions from the players and stuff, I don't think there was toxicity. Tuchel is like a compassionate guy, and he does know how to talk to people. He allows himself to get riled up, but who doesn't as a passionate manager? But I think he would have been shocked from everyone as a we are. But in terms of I do believe Boehly, Boehly, Clear Lake, they accepted what he represented, but they probably behind him all had new, completely wholesale ideas that they were happy enough for him to be, a victim of. Go on, Nick.
And which would have been fine. The question of timing is why I'm so thrown off, right? Because it would be, it would make complete sense if they met at the beginning of the summer, that, Clear Lake shares their ideas, right? Boehly and Co. say, this is what we have as a vision for Chelsea Football Club. Do you, Thomas Tuchel, want to be a part of it, even if the existing structure is not going to be there, right? And apparently that answer was yes, right?
Well, 270 million spend.
Yeah,
yes.
you'd have to assume, right? But so then what? I guess what's the timing of this, and like why does it make no sense? Like, why would you invest in a guy who you didn't believe to be there long term in this sort of way with some very specific purchases, right? Like the Aubameyang one now blows your fucking mind. Like, why did that happen? Because if Graham Potter's coming in, Armando Broya's right there, like,
sure,
notorious for working with young talents, like. This is the part that I don't get. Like, why would you go through all of this like fake exercise and then can the guy who you bought the players for?
I think it's like and I'm speculating here, obviously, but I don't think it's like necessarily a fake exercise. I think it's probably they understood what Tuchel represents for Chelsea, winning the Champions League, the fans liking him, the We Are the Shed making a banner for him, and they probably thought, right, well, this could work. But there's reports coming out now suggesting things like I don't know how much credence to give this, but suggesting things like they've seen what Haaland's doing at City. They've seen, how Liverpool have been playing with the 9-0s and stuff like that. And perhaps they've, suddenly thought, right, well, we're not cooking like they are. And obviously I heard that this Tuchel ethos is built off defense and winning games because we don't lose them. That's not seemingly the case. And obviously they've probably seen, okay, well, we're relatively new to the sport. We want, Chelsea to be great, attack and win. Though Tuchel was held in such a high regard and we sort of thought to back him, we never necessarily behind the scenes said, well, 100% for sure. I know, and to read that article, Brandon, about like saying like, they saw what Haaland's doing at City and they're like, that's what we should do with Chelsea. I don't know if that's a little bit reductionist, but maybe they just had some, right, the season's just started, this isn't going well. And again, we could talk about it, but I feel like there's been suggested that for a little while they've been keeping a close eye on Potter.
So I think, my take on a lot of it too is I'm sure a lot of conversations were had this summer. A lot of expectations were dealt. And look, maybe they said, if you can deliver on, and kind of help transition us to where we want to go, by all means, it's yours to lose. And I'm sure Tuchel was like, yeah, I can deliver that. You guys want more goals? Fine. We can play more open, because it seems like we've been more open this season, but the offense has been a disaster. And maybe he said he could deliver something that within the first few weeks of the season has been nowhere close to being delivered upon. Therefore, they took the decision to change him.
Yeah, that's a really good way of saying it, actually, because that kind of like emphasizes like, yes, you can. And we see the fans love you. We see your recent success, but we want a bit different. And you're right to pull out Brandon and say, because he has sort of almost scrambling been trying to open them up a little bit more and score more goals and
how many different formations. I mean, he's tried everything.
It's a sense of
it's like the least panic. German thing ever.
Exactly. And it's not natural for him. And perhaps that's why he's not doing his best work. He's been a little bit more frustrated, etc. We did play really well against Tottenham, but Chelsea do play well against Tottenham. We get up for it. So I think probably they're like, right, this is what we want. We're new to the European game. This is the benchmark, Man City and Liverpool. We've had a little look at them. They're quite fun. They score a lot of goals and they seemingly just dominate. Can you do that? And he probably went, yeah, well, we haven't been doing that. We've still been doing all right. Yeah. I'm good. I can probably do that. So to your point, Brandon, that's probably what's happened. And then they've been sort of thinking, right, well, maybe even weeks ago, plus maybe saying, right, if we do have to pull the trigger, can we do something here? Because there's no way they sack him this morning, these kind of guys, without having a plan. And I think they've got a plan.
You could have had Graham Potter in the summer, though. Like, if this was your plan.
But that would have been a terrible PR move, coming in and sacking Tuchel before like we've even started. That was like a loss to the fans. Boehly's been out here kissing babies, shaking hands at Stamford Bridge. He's not going to be like, "Hey guys, I've sacked Tuchel." Do you know what I mean? Like, it couldn't have happened.
And Tuchel earned the right to start the season, I think, with the transition and everything. But either way, here to go. So, right, first 100 matches, as we know, that was the big talking point. This is from Sky Sports. 100 matches played. Well, he's won 60 of them. Drawn 24, lost 16. So, a very strong record. He's lost 16% of his matches. That's good. Yeah. We've scored 168 goals. We've only conceded 77. All of that is really strong and really good for a CV. The problem is started strong, stock going up, and then it's like been kind of slowly at the end of last season, the beginning of this season, just been going down. And so if you're kind of to break that up into kind of, first half and second half, first 50, second 50, which we've seen, right? It was like Chelsea conceded 24 or 12 in their first 50. And then it was like triple that in the second 50. So there's different chapters to this, but overall Tuchel was a wildly successful manager. 5 cup finals, 3 trophies, including the big one, the Champions League, the Super Cup and the Club World Cup. Tuchel added trophies to the cabinet that had never been there before for Chelsea. Yeah. And I think that is important to be recognized and to be grateful for.
Also, just on top of that, a lot of those draws as well, like what hasn't gone in his favor is some of our best performances have come in unlucky, high-profile draws, whether they were the 2 finals against Liverpool or indeed the 2 games against Liverpool, where we got draws, but we were the better team. So that goes as, a 1 point not a win on this CV when that should have been a real high profile win against the good teams. And to the other side of it, it's the losses. It's, the seemingly in our DNA of late, the last few years, the losses against the minnows, where, adds against it as well. And they're the high profile losses. So the high profile draws that should have been wins, where we've been like, oh, Chelsea were great. Even add the Anthony Taylor Spurs debacle this season. It's just another one, high profile elite performances against elite opposition, but not getting that W that we probably should have done. And obviously the silly losses in between, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
Thomas Tuchel is directly responsible for one of the best days of our lives. Like, we don't win the Champions League in 2021 without his guidance and having come in to the team. And like, I know for a fact, we were just blessed to be there, but it felt more than that. It felt like you'd stolen somebody mid-season who could actually be here for a while. So I will always put him in high regard for that. And I think that is part of the exercise that we're doing now, is just kind of like raw reactions. Like, that dude directly helped me experience something I never thought I'd experience in my life. Right. In person, watching my team win the Champions League.
Double the numbers as well, man. Like, Chelsea are now multiple European Cup winners, not, that single token one. They're like, no, we've won multiple. That, prestigious. And
it is.
Yeah, it's painful.
So obviously, Tuchel, highly considered one of the best managers in the world. Again, this transition has been tough. It hasn't worked out. The one thing I did want to touch on, and I think this is something that a lot of fans have seen, is it just, look, the on-field connection with him and players doesn't seem to be there. When he first came, he always relied on the veterans, never changed formations. Players knew who was in his favor and who was not. He relied on people. It seems like all of a sudden he's chopping and changing at every intersection. Players said they don't know where they stand with him. They're struggling to kind of understand, where the lineups are coming from. So that does seem to be the biggest, I guess, flaw that is happening on the pitch. Whatever's happening off the pitch, it is being written that the players considered him the best tactician, purely tactician they have ever worked with. And these are some players that have seen every manager out there. But they said right now it's not clicking. His message is not being received by the players. This happens. Managerial careers are cyclical. He will go on to get another top job, I'm sure. But it seems like it just came to the point where the communication wasn't being effective and the players weren't positively responding to his message. And a lot of fans, that's the frustration that they saw, was the poor results and the disjointedness of the team kind of week in, week out.
Here's an exercise for you. And it's one that I do simply out of kind of like a Disney's what if kind of scenario. What if N'Golo Kante is healthy the entire tenure that Tuchel has? My bet is that he is still the manager. He has an extension until 2027.
Maybe. So here's another dark arts argument, and I'm not personally making it, but is Tuchel's team responsible for him not being fit? You never know.
Well, that stems back from Maurizio Sarri days, doesn't it? In terms of how he's been handled. But yeah, it's super sad, man. I don't feel like there's been like a mutiny with the players. I don't think there's been toxicity. There's not the snakes with Mourinho or back in the day or wherever that was. I feel
even
like
Lampard got nasty.
Yeah, and I feel like he's got emotional intelligence. I feel like that's a huge important facet of the character of Graham Potter. But I feel like Tuchel has that, but after a while, bro, his divorce and his the Lukaku thing, and just generally the turbulent inherent nature of the Chelsea shit show, the sanctions, the war, absolutely everything. I mean, he seems stable, but when so much stuff is going on in the background, and eventually you might lose that sort of stable connection. Like this is like a more sort of human thing, but maybe if Tuchel, I don't know, like kept that stable home life and he stayed with his wife and his kids at Cobham and they were in school and he had that grounding, I know sometimes as simple as things like that help you stay connected. You know, speaking to your missus about a player that you're dealing with, and them giving you another like perspective on it, and chewing the fat with them with your family. And when you're so like disrupted in your personal life, and there's such turbulence, that's just always going to bleed out into your professional line of work, no matter what that is. So there could be something to be said with that, as well as like Nick said, the fitness of but or indeed both Kovacic and Kante. But hopefully whoever comes in can find a way to navigate stuff like that and has a sort of stable grounding, I suppose.
All right. Well, I do want to circle on the fact that I think everyone here at the end of the day are massive Tuchel fans, supporters, what he's brought to the club, especially post Lampard transition. That was not easy, and he navigated it beautifully. The transition in ownership, being pulled into geopolitical commentary, being told to be the mouthpiece for the club while executives sat behind, hidden in their offices. I think he's done an exemplary job. This just might have been one step too many for the man, and probably not even his fault because it was all out of his control. So all the best for him. I'm sure he'll take
not
a break
all
and
out of
bounce
his
back.
control, but
well,
yeah,
I'm saying
a lot of the bigger stuff. Sure. Yeah,
correct. 98% of the managers in European football didn't have to deal with what he has in the last 8 months.
Yeah, no,
that's all I'm saying. Yeah, they got to manage. I mean, look at how terrible, Eddie Howe has managed the Newcastle commentary.
Disgraceful.
Like,
disgraceful.
He got poked a couple times and it was like, oh, this is unfair. And Tuchel's like, my man, I've been at it for 3 months. Like,
yeah.
So that's the James Franco meme when he's in the news. He's like, your first time, huh?
Yeah. But well said, Brandon. Like, it's important that we, obviously with Tuchel, he commands not just the Chelsea fans' respect, but indeed the whole world of football. For how he's represented the club, spoken about people, like you say, geopolitics in one, and he's been exemplary on and off the pitch, and absolutely should command the respect of everyone in the game.
Well, all right, and I would just quickly say, like, are we moving on to tactic stuff or like next step stuff?
I was going to do next step stuff.
Do it.
Okay. Well, as Ian mentioned earlier, obviously, as much as we, talked about Tuchel, the club have made the decision, not us, and we now need to look forward. It is not up to us. We are just reacting to the situation. And immediately reported, at least that I saw first, is Matt Law saying you have Graham Potter from Brighton and Pochettino, who's an unsigned free agent, maybe for good reason. And so it's the Potter-Poch race, with Potter being the front runner. That kind of aligns to the potential vision of a long-term project, building something. They're very excited with what Potter's done with limited resources. And so it might even be announced later today, the way things are moving. I mean, I think Naz was tweeting that, Adam Newson's tweeting that. And so we're going to see where it goes. But Nick, it looks like Potter versus Poch are the front two runners. I have seen a ton of mentions for Zinedine Zidane and on the video I put out there. I'm just saying that's what a lot of
the
Twitter people. I mean, he wouldn't be the first manager to get over that hump. But anyways, initial reactions to Potter versus Poch. I know you're a big Maurizio Pochettino fan.
Yeah.
Said no Chelsea fan ever.
Yeah, no, you know me.
Worse. Wait, where do you rank him? Worse or ahead of or below Rafa Benitez?
Oh, ahead of Rafa Benitez. I mean, come on. Like that's not really a fair fight. But so look, can we talk qualities of a manager really quick? Because I think the Potter thing is fascinating. But as I think about the lens, I think this is the lens I'm using. Yan made some important points earlier, right? Tuchel's record against the top six, and particularly against City and Liverpool, which are, the two that you really are focused on right now as kind of the top of the mountain, right? Maybe not Liverpool this year. But he provided a absurd foil for both of those teams with the way that he set up his team, right? It wasn't pretty. It was just what he had to do to get across the line. And he frustrated the absolute shit out of Jurgen Klopp, who never played well against us while he was here. And for the most part, got the better of Pep. Now, last year, didn't, but it wasn't so crazy and out of control that you were thinking that he lost his touch. That is how you eventually supplant the top of the mountain, is you got to beat him. I don't know if any of the options listed are capable of that. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if Potter is. Maybe with more talent he is, but like that is how I'm kind of thinking about this frame for the level of a Chelsea manager. Like it was brilliant to have Tuchel, who was a dynamically different manager than those two, played different football than those two, provided a foil to what they were doing and genuinely caused them problems and caused big teams problems across the board. I mean, we should have beat Real Madrid again last year, right? Like, so this isn't like an isolated thing for the Premier League. That is just one thing that I am thinking about, Jan, as I frame up the new manager, because it's not going to be enough to beat your Brightons and your Brentfords and keep the job.
Sure, no, I understand that. Yes, let's be real. It's going to be Pochettino or Potter. I probably align with you guys in wanting Potter, and it looks like it's likely to be him. And it does sound like, as more news emerges, that actually he's been in the frame for probably a little bit more longer than we thought. And the fact how Potter's been granted to speak to Chelsea today. He's on the route to London to meet Boehly this afternoon for a meeting, and Chelsea have I mean, it's inferred that Chelsea are prepared to trigger his managerial release clause. He was on like a 7-year deal with a release clause because he knows that Brighton are a well-run club. They know how to maximize profits from anything, whether it's players or managers, and they knew that a lot of people have been sniffing around Potter. Brandon, do you mind if I just like give my opinion on Graham Potter?
Please do.
A good time? Okay, so I really love him personally. I've been actually calling for him to be England manager as an England fan for a long time. I think England would have been very lucky to have him. He obviously he's been watched closely by football clubs for a long time. He did really interesting thing at Östersunds where he was managing in Scandinavia. The club was built around him. He developed this really particular ethos. He took players to like the ballet because he wanted to open up their experiences and see about how performance and stuff that I, as you know, as a bit of a sort of creative type myself, really resonate with. Really like interesting stuff. I mean, he doesn't look like it when you see him or hear him talk, but he's actually quite, you know, got loads of social, emotional intelligence, and he's, you know, got this sort of different, more perhaps artistic yet pragmatic perspective. He did in 2007. He was the technical director for the Ghanaian women's national team in the World Cup in China. So he went and experienced this different kind of football culturally, you know, massive cultural change in terms of experiences and learning experiences. And people might just think, oh, he's just some gaffer who's been to Swansea and Brighton, but these international experiences of different elements of the game and culturally different. And he's been impressing people behind the scenes for a long time. And of course, right now at Brighton, he is massively overachieving with the assets he's got. He really impresses and entertains. And that's not me saying it's going to naturally translate to, you know, amazing talent, so he's going to be able to overachieve with super talents. But because of this background of emotional and social intelligence, partnered with the fact how he seems to know how to navigate the Premier League with not that great players, you know, you could be optimistic in thinking, right, well, this guy's good to go up a few notches again. And perhaps the Chelsea ownership are thinking, well, here we go. This is, you know, we want to plan for the future. We want to get all these youngsters in the next gen Chelsea team. Maybe that's the next gen super manager as well, which they see in Graham Potter, whereas they probably felt Thomas Tuchel is an excellent one, but a known quantity, and perhaps they feel like Potter will bring a brand of football that's closer to what they want to emulate in, of course, Liverpool and Man City in terms of tactics, as well as being able to, you know, communicate with the players well and perhaps not lose players, you know, belief on the pitch or off the pitch rather. So I think he's a great candidate personally. I would put him above Pochettino. And similarly, Zidane was perfect for Real Madrid because he won 3 European Cups, but he was just like the Galactico whisperer. He knew the vibes, and Real Madrid are meant to win the European Cup, so he was perfect for them. He's not going to come and do well for 38 Premier League games trying to learn English for me. It's just not going to work. And
No.
I've never been, massively interested in Pochettino. I think he's a good coach, but again, I think he's just sort of vibes and not great. I feel like he's just sort of kept that up and coming young manager thing, and he's never really pushed through. He went to PSG and did a lot worse than Tuchel in terms of how he played, and not winning Liga, not getting to the final, like of course Tuchel did, despite buying Wijnaldum, Messi, Donnarumma, Hakimi, Ramos. Do you know what I mean? Like all that. So he's a lot worse than Tuchel. So at least with Potter, you're buying something that's on a positive trajectory and not a downward trajectory.
Pochettino's ceiling is quite well established, I think, right?
Yeah, and I'm hitting my head on it, man. So
yeah. The one thing I would say, Matt Law tweeted just recently, Nick, that reasons it was sacked, players' unhappy decisions, desire for a long-term head coach, the need to buy into the new culture. Is there anything based in reality about a long-term head coach, or what is long-term? 3 years, 4 years? I mean, it's not 10. Fergie was a one of one. Like, if you want to win consistently for 10 years, odds are it's going to take multiple people to do that.
Well, friend of the pod, Ollie Glanville, tweeted this morning, and I need to find it.
Can I just say what? Oh, sorry, go on.
Go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say while you're looking, the buyout clause for I thought for some reason in my head the buyout clause for Potter was like going to be really big, but it's 16 million pounds, 1-6. So for the new owners throwing their weight around, they will have no problem paying 16 million pounds for a gaffer. Sorry, go on, Nick.
You're good. A reminder that since 1905, the year that the club was founded, the average tenure of a Chelsea manager is 2.9 years. That's the
longer
club.
than I thought.
2.9 years.
Well, so since this is pre-Roman, there, Brandon. This is 1905.
Yeah, exactly.
So back then they were like,
I think the average Premier League. I think the
Yeah.
average Premier League tenure is like a year, or a little over a year.
Yeah, you got Watford to thank for that though, bringing that
down. Just taking the average there. But I mean, look, you know what Pochettino brings. He's not a winner.
No, exactly.
And like, I can't imagine a team used to winning things listening to a guy who's never won anything.
Exactly. And he's Tottenham.
That's well, and then you bring up the obvious fatal error that he has, which he has that stink on him. If you're going to talk about either one of them, it has to be Potter. Potter can play with a back five. We've seen him this season. I would contend that Brighton is right up there with City in terms of the football they're playing. I mean, they are on fire right now, and he's made mountains out of players who I don't think are very good. Like, he's clearly improved them, like McAllister out of nowhere.
He looked like Ronaldo, Ronaldo the other day. Can I just quickly say as well, guys, can we all have a moment of silence for a young man who can't catch a break, and his name is Billy Gilmore?
Oh my God. I thought about it immediately.
It's almost like we used his fee to now go get Graham Potter. Like, as messed up as that is.
Oh man, he's gonna be he just can't catch a break.
I think Boehly's gonna be really like upset that they let that happen and then immediately had to sack Tuchel. I think he's going to be kicking himself over that one.
Well, I mean, here's the problem though. Like, the timing thing fucks me up for a couple of reasons. I was just over there last week, right? Deadline day was Thursday. If they hypothetically made the decision to sack him after the weekend instead of yesterday, then there was a space of like 2 days where all they had to do was keep their fucking powder dry. And then Billy Gilmore could be a part of this team. Like, Callum Hudson-Odoi could be a part of this team. Like, it doesn't, it just so disconnected.
Well, Nick, I've been waiting to bring this. I've had this one in the chamber, so I'm gonna bring it out now. Odds on Thomas Tuchel recalling Romelu Lukaku in January. No, I don't think that's gonna happen. But just imagine. Yeah, that's I do feel like you say, man. Like, Callum Hudson-Odoi does seem quite profile-y for Potter. Certainly Billy Gilmore. Because all that. But the truth is, man, like, regardless to these little things we could talk about, this is appropriate, that's appropriate. if Potter does indeed get this job, he would be Brandon rubbing his hands together, bowling up at Chelsea regardless. Because if he, like Nick said, if he can work miracles with McAllister and whoever else you want to refer, they sold Basuma and Kukurea and got better. So he'll be rubbing his hands together,
And obviously we bought Kukurea, but we were linked with Basuma for a hot second. I think that Chelsea to Brighton, it was becoming a bit of a romantic.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's putting his foil hat on for those who can't see Brandon.
No, I'm just saying, like, we clearly have like some affection for Brighton, and like we sent Levi Colwell there. Billy just went there. Like, there's clearly something going on where there's mutual respect between the clubs, and it just escalated. We just went from dating to highly in a more serious situation of what's up, Graham? You busy?
Yeah.
you got
hey,
the
girl.
off?
Hey,
pop up to London for the day. We got for great food, great meal.
Bro, I think they've been talking to us for a little while. The fact how Brighton, without any issue, were like, yeah, off you go. Yeah. And the fact how they're like, from the announcement this morning to Potter being in London this afternoon, come on, jamming.
Yeah.
Well, I do take some of the fun with this. No context, Leicester City tweeting a picture of Brendan Rodgers in the old Chelsea training kit. I think they're trying to push him on us, which hopefully we can fight off.
No, thanks, fellas. I think we're all.
When you said at the top of the pod, that sobered me up. Not that I've been drinking. I found it sobering that you said you'd never imagine Tuchel being sacked before Brendan Rodgers. That was hit me like a visceral, like, oh yeah, shit, that is wild. That is absolutely wild. But
3 weeks ago, Ten Hag was about to be sacked.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Frank was going to be sacked. Dude down in Southampton, Hasenhüttl was going to be sacked.
Yeah, exactly.
Brendan Rodgers was going to be sacked. No doubt about that at this point.
Yeah.
And Thomas Tuchel, a European champion manager who
5 points off the top of the Prem, by the way.
Yeah. Look, it's not been good, but those are the standards, though, right? I mean, and I hate it. I don't like doing these pods. The last time that we fired Frank, I think Brandon will remember very specifically that I asked a big question, which is, what is the fucking plan? Like, if you're going to sack Frank and all the youth development, all that stuff that happened at that point, what's the plan? Now, obviously, that plan worked out pretty okay for a bit, but it wasn't a long-term plan. I ask now of our current management structure, what is the plan here? This is a bold fucking move. So you have to have something in the works to make this happen cohesively across the board. We have one manager on the women's side who's been there for 10 years who can't do wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I think there are a whole lot of people out there who are desperate for something to work long term. Maybe it's Graham Potter, maybe it's not. I don't know. But
apparently you do know, Nick, because you're tweeting things that only one man can save us now, and it's Gus Hiddink.
That's right. Bring him back. Come on.
I have seen that. So like I said, today is going to be wild on social media. Chelsea fans, don't get caught up in the shithousery. There's going to be a lot of banter. Like, it's okay to take some fun with some things. It is a transition. If there's one thing Chelsea fans know what to do, it's survive a managerial transition. Sounds like the club are going to get this wrapped up fast one way or the other, probably before Fulham. So we'll see how it goes. You're probably going to get another pod out from us. Matt Law wants to do something. If a manager does get appointed, we'll do something again. But Jan, it was so good to hear from you this morning and
Pleasure,
catch you at an available time to do this pod before we even start our workday over here stateside.
No, pleasure. Thanks for having me on, bro. I mean, obviously difficult circumstance, but always happy to jump on.
For sure.
Yeah, let's chat soon, buddy.
Yeah, man.
More content coming. But again, this is just our initial reaction and kind of a quick look at ahead based on the rumors that are out there. A lot more content, obviously, more in-time stuff on social media. But anyways, that's going to wrap us up. As much as we know, so we'll see what happens, Chelsea fans. So until next time, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.